Gina and Josh are ready. Lights up, let's go. Brunch back the magic, let the Disney fun flow. Catch the vibe, let the laughter ignite. Brunch back the magic, every Sunday's a treat. Friends together, our hearts skip a beat. Disney dreams woven with every sweet cheer. Pour another mimosa, let's toast to this year.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Brunch Back the Magic. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Josh.
And I'm his sister, Gina. And for those of you just joining us, welcome to brunch.
Welcome to the brunch, indeed. We are so excited. But first, before we tell you how excited we are, note that this program is rated TV 14, so you younger viewers have your parents' permission before watching it, but we're pretty sure it's going to be a clean show. Thank you so much. We are so excited about the guest we have today. It's somebody who reached out to us before we had started our podcast that was asking about guests and everything, and it's just very fascinating. Gina, what can you tell them about our guest today?
Our guest today wrote an amazing book, a very comprehensive book that we will get into talking about. For those of you, obviously just a Disney fan in general, it doesn't even matter what your favorite attraction is. I think Disney fans love hearing Disney history. So this is a book all about the origin, stories behind the Enchanted Tiki Room. It's called Before the Birds Sang Words. I am very excited, but he also has a lot more credits to his name than just that. But and also has worked at some of our favorite past attractions at Walt Disney World.
And we will get into it. Well, without further ado, let's introduce our guest. Okay. Grab your Dole Whip and take a seat. Today's guest is someone who lives right at the intersection of Disney magic and Hollywood storytelling. He's an Emmy Award-winning animation director, a lifelong Disney fan, and the author of Before the Birds Sang Words, the book that pulls back the curtain on how the Enchanted Tiki Room came to life. And if you love Imagineering stories, hidden history, and a little bit of tiki magic, you're going to love this conversation. Please welcome Mr. Ken Bruce.
I'm caffeinated now. You didn't tell me the show had to be clean. Now I got to work. Oh my God.
We give parameters. We give very loose parameters.
Oh my God. I will have to be on my best behavior, and I will.
We
won't hold you. We won't hold you to that. We won't hold that.
And kudos to that magical musical opening. My Lord.
We love a good
You guys are rocking it. You guys are on board 111%. Got my coffee here. We're ready. I'm on a different time zone. So if I miss words and can't remember things, be patient with me. I'll get through this.
Thank you for joining us and it being a little earlier on the West Coast. I know 9 a.m. on the West Coast is a little bit more than 9 a.m. on the East Coast. You guys maybe go a little harder than us.
We're dealing with snow. You're dealing with fog. It's like,
and even then, I don't wake up till about 4 p.m. here. So, but we're going to be all right. We're going to do this. A delight to be here with you. I'm super excited. This is so much fun for me.
Yeah.
Well, we are so excited to have you. It's it's not every day you're like, okay, is our Emmy Award-winning guest on our show, which is something I've only talked to one other, two of them. That is what. So tell us what the 2 Emmys were for.
Okay, so they were for animation and they were team efforts. So I wasn't the only one who got it for the particular show. So
that was in 2015 and 2017.
I don't even remember.
I'm going to give you all the facts that you don't know about, Ken. This is what's going to happen.
I don't even know.
Did we keep to get to know Ken, or Ken to teach Ken?
We're gonna.
Exactly.
This is refresh Ken's memory.
Oh my God. And they felt, and both awards were like, huh, me? But it was fun. So one was for a Cartoon Network show called Over the Garden Wall, which was like it was like a mini series, and it was beautiful. And it's become a perennial favorite. It shows up every October because it has a lot of fall vibes to it.
And the other one was Adventure Time, right?
And the other was an episode of Adventure Time, which, don't tell anybody. You're not going to believe this. I haven't even seen.
Guys, don't tell anyone.
I don't tell anybody.
Oh
But
my goodness.
after this episode, I'll look it up and check it out. But I
He's
do
like,
remember.
wow, I really deserve that Emmy.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for me.
It's so embarrassing. I'll check it out. I mean, but even then, when you're working on it, you see it. So, but
And
when
when
it
it's a
finally
team
was released.
effort, do you each get an individual Emmy of your own, or is it like one?
Well, no,
that's
Cartoon
the
Network
other?
decides who's because it's a Cartoon Network decides what the small handful of people are that will get it, and they included me, which was great. Um, uh,
That's awesome.
so yeah, both are on my shelf back here.
Do you ever just
And I
gloat
still-
in front of the person that wasn't good enough to get it? You're like, oh, look, I'll just move my Emmy.
I come from I still feel like a fraud. Like you don't really you didn't really give those to it's whatever. But
my goodness.
not really. I hide them away actually. I use them as doorstops.
Ken's Christmas card every year.
No, I'm not one of those people. I'm actually hide under furniture but they're at the farthest back part of my house and no one ever sees them. But occasionally I'll bring them out and go, look, have you ever held one of these before?
That's such a flex. I remember I've gone over one of my friends, I come from the comic industry. I went over one of my friends' houses and I was like, I walked in, I looked at a thing and I go, is that an Emmy?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, because he's a comic artist. And I go, you have an Emmy?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I got this for this. And I go, when did you get an Emmy? I was like, I go, what is that? He goes, yeah, right?
Well,
that's a huge flex.
We have a friend who is in the movie industry and is I guess does a cinematography, videography, but anyway, he won an Oscar.
Wow.
Music by Prudence, I think it was called. But what's hilarious is he was the videographer for Josh's birthday party. Was it your birthday
The
party?
25th birthday, he was the videographer for it.
Whenever I tell anybody this story, I go, oh, we have a friend. He was the videographer for Josh's birthday party and he won an Oscar for that party. No.
And that was a couple of years ago.
It was such a great party. It won an Oscar.
Yeah.
Unlike
there you go.
He would carry that Oscar around, and God bless him. He would bring it to the bar. He would bring it to the party. He was posing. And I was like, good for you, man. Good for you.
Funny thing is back when we would watch the video.
Gloat.
Well, we just say, you want to watch my birthday video shot by Oscar award-winning
Exactly. There
videographer
you go.
Earl Weber? There you go.
Wink, wink. Look at this thing.
Oh my goodness. So you got a pretty extensive IMDb page. Ken, I'm not gonna lie. You've got a lot of credits.
There's a lot on there.
Do you know you have
need to
one?
retire.
That's what I was gonna say also. Do you know you have an IMDb?
I don't even look. And I think the last time I looked, I'm like, did I work on that? Really? I don't remember that. But whatever. Yeah, I don't even know
I
how
love your
IMDb
humbleness.
works. Who does I'm kind of an introvert, I guess. I don't really think
because
about
I see a
these
lot of
things.
stuff currently you're working with Family Guy, correct?
Yes, and love it. It's probably the best show I've ever. Well, no, it's the most fun I've ever had. Other than Shrek, when I worked on Shrek, I had a great time. That was laughter all day long. And then Family Guy is great because they basically leave me alone. It's really lovely to just sit there and do the work and turn it in and know that I'm working with just really great people. And when I look at my career, I don't think of what I do. I think of just how, wow, I got to work with some amazing people and be in the same room where things happened. That's what I think about. I don't think about what did I do.
I mean,
what
basically,
what is that like though? When you're going to work at Family Guy, is that during a certain month period? It's a day, 5 days a week or whatever. What is it?
It's a full week job, but it's it's a seasonal show, so we do get a break of about a couple months between seasons, and that's coming up actually. But then it's a Monday through Friday job for most of the year while we're prepping for the next year. And it takes about a year to work on each episode. Well, not for me. Each episode takes me 2-3 weeks, but they, from the start of a show to where it airs, that's about a year, almost a year. So we just finished our Christmas show, and will be next Christmas. So.
Wow, that's amazing because it's I view Family Guy now as kind of like the next Simpsons, because it has that much viral kind of thing. It's like a different deal, but it's amazing. I love that show. First of all, I've watched it for years, and there's no shortage of pushing the envelope on that show. Everything they do.
We try.
When comedy could push the envelope.
Well, I was laying in bed the other morning, and like I was saying, my wife was getting annoyed because I kept saying Brian, Brian, Brian,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Brian. She's like, "Why
yeah,
do you keep saying that?" I go, "I don't know. I just
yeah.
like saying it."
Oh yeah, that's
So
the running jokes that we have. The
see,
callbacks from many seasons previous. We do that all the time.
what was it? The greased up deaf guy or whatever was on
Oh,
one
I
of
don't know.
God.
You're
Who
like,
knows?
"Oh my god!"
Forgot about that.
I go,
Well,
"How
my
does Seth
son does
MacFarlane
the
not get canceled?" I
mommy,
go,
mommy,
Yeah,
mommy, mom. My son does the silly
mama,
all the
hi.
time.
yeah. It started with that, mommy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So how many years
Give
have
me
you
the
been on
grinds,
Family
Mikey
Guy?
is.
Good question. I think it's been 4 years now.
You
Wow.
started in
4 years now.
2020.
Okay,
started
let's
in
ask
Yeah,
Josh.
2020.
thank
Josh, how
you.
long has
I'm
Ken
gonna.
been?
I don't
Any
know.
Ken questions direct to me, I will
Right.
let you
I
know
need
about
some more coffee.
them. Yeah, it really
I'm
grinds
a
my gears.
frog. But whatever.
So
It's been fun.
and the reason why we're asking you some of these like stories about like what you're working on now and everything is kind of get an idea of who you are. But like,
Oh, thank you.
what is an animation timer? Because it has in your credits, it says animation timer. Like, what is it you actually do?
So an animation timer, many of us animation timers wish we had a different moniker because we're actually animation directors.
Yeah.
But they call it timing. That is okay. So we send our shows to Korea to be animated, and we don't want them to be creative whatsoever. Like, so we give them a big kit to put together, and I'm the one responsible for providing them the very specific animation directions. When characters turn their heads and their mouth shapes, and where scenes cut and where camera
Oh
moves come
wow.
in, and uh, adding additional animation poses that aren't there to begin with, right down to the frame. So they just follow my directions, and then when a show comes back, if they've followed the directions correctly, we hope the show will look great. So we're directing the animation. We're basically filling out what we call exposure sheets. And actually, if you were here and I could show you, you could see it pretty easily. But you all know player pianos and the piano roll that runs through the piano, and how that represents time as it's rolling through, and all the little slash marks that
Mhm.
cue the keys. I'm filling out long sheets of paper, digital paper, where I'm giving all of those cues for the animation.
That's cool.
So that's kind of a metaphor for, or yeah, that's kind of a good way to explain it.
Now,
That's a good comparison, I think. Yeah.
how did your
Yeah.
journey into how did this career begin for you? Like, where did you first start?
Where
in
did
the
I
animation
start? So I
world?
always wanted to be in animation. So you asked me at age 7 what I wanted to do. It was going to be animation, and it was going to be Disney, even though that didn't
Mhm.
quite work out that way.
Mhm.
And then what do? You go to Cal Arts. If you want to be an animator, you got to go to California Institute of the Arts. There are others. So I made a beeline for that. Was able to get in, thank God, where you make student films. Hopefully they're noticed, and then hopefully you can get into the industry. And I got in at a really good time. Before I got in, it was dead pretty much in animation. I don't think anybody at CalArts that I was going to CalArts with thought for a minute that we were actually going to get a job, but we were there because we loved it.
I love it.
But that's just when things were, cracking with the animation renaissance. Things
Mhm.
like, well, the big one was Little Mermaid.
Same.
The moment Little Mermaid popped out, it was like the world changed. And
Mhm.
and The Simpsons, and
Yeah.
Nickelodeon
I
became a
remember
thing, and
watching The
cartoon.
Simpsons, the shorts on the Tracy
Like the
Ullman
Almond
show.
Show.
Yeah.
I remember
So
that.
so there was just this huge explosion of energy. Toy Story changed everything with CGI. So there was always pretty much work for me, and I hopped, as all of us in animation often do, hop from studio to studio, because when a project ends, you go to another.
Mhm.
You go to another project. So I've had a lot of fun in a lot of different ways. Most of the feature animation stuff was storyboarding, because I have a story brain. And a lot of the TV stuff was either directing or doing what I'm doing for Family Guy, which is animation directing or animation timing. So yeah, and I look back and go, wow, I was there for a lot of really great things. Yeah.
So, with storyboarding, because this is also fascinating to me, because we've never talked to anybody who's in this field, even though, like Josh said, we grew up
Mhm.
in comics and stuff. So, neighbors, but not the same thing. So when it's like, when you say about storyboarding, so like, where does that go from? Does somebody come like for an animation movie with like a script and they're like here, or is it an idea and then storyboarding goes from there? Like, how does
Well,
that work?
film by and large is visually driven, and I think animation from, I don't know, like storyboards became a thing with Disney back in the 30s, 20s, 30s. It's visually driven, so we are writing visual scripts as
Mhm.
opposed to scripts. Now there are script writers, and a lot of storyboard artists chafe with them because a lot of them are just they're not script. They just look at the storyboard and then transcribe. So much of the structure and the visual language of cartoons, we have to plot it out carefully visually. So
Yeah.
the link between comic books and storyboarding is,
Right. Right.
they're kind of
Yeah.
the same thing, but we're
Mhm.
plotting out the shots and we're plotting out the story visually.
Mhm.
So
And
it's like
it's
kind of
pretty
like feels
much
like
always been that way.
chicken and egg. So like if I came to you with Toy
Mm,
Story, is somebody bringing like essentially the written actual
yeah.
script first and then bringing it to the storyboarder and say
But
plan it out, or are they just saying I
it's
have an
kind of
idea
all together.
together? Mhm.
But even then, some of the, the core, the core Disney classics were not script written. Someone had an
Mhm.
idea and might have written notes, but
Okay.
they were plotted out for the
Mhm.
most part visually on storyboards
Yeah.
by a
Yeah.
story team who built the film up. And that tradition has been, kind of broken down over many years, so that a script writer is in there, but
Mhm.
they're working right alongside the story crew who is building the film visually. So
Yeah. Because when they
they kind
say
of go
like
hand in, and it's not, and one doesn't come before the other. It's all at the
right.
same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and
Because
it's
when
back
they
and
say like
forth.
that
And
Robin Williams like ad-libbed so many
oh yeah,
different
yeah,
things for like Aladdin, I'm kind of like, how does that work if you're doing the voice? Because I would have always assumed like
yeah,
that was first, and then it's like, no, they do the voice part and then you animate what the voice
yeah,
part
yeah,
was. Yeah.
yeah,
Because you got to
yeah,
match
yeah,
up the mouth, all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild.
Well, in
Wow.
comic
Yeah.
books, it's like you receive a script with a visual cue kind of thing. So it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
they'll go right out what the story is going to be, how it evolves. This person's going to stay this and this scene, and they kind of ask the artist to create this
Mhm.
universe. And but they have kind of free range over certain things, and they come back like, okay, it's approved. But you surprised how many people are like,
Mhm.
oh, this book was behind. Like, well, the artist didn't get the script for like 3 months late or something. You're
Yeah.
like, that's the long part. They got to draw the whole
Yeah.
thing. I'm like, that's
And
tough.
sometimes the artist is the writer as well.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah.
absolutely.
You have a
So
buddy who
let's
just finished a comic as well, and yeah, he was writing and drawing at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
Yeah.
lot of work. So let's
it
talk
is.
about the book, Ken. So
Yes.
we're Disney people, obviously. Okay.
Yeah.
So we heard about this, and I've actually what was the one guy that does the voiceover? Is Jim he does some things he's always trying to get Disney
Jim
to give him a
Kirk,
job.
Jim
But
Cummings.
yeah, yes.
Jim Kirk. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Adore him.
he
He's the best.
yeah. I love watching his little scripts when he'll have like the introductions and things, but he had your book in one of the clips I
Mhm.
think Gina put up, and I was like, that's so awesome. But I haven't read it yet. I have the Audible. I downloaded it because
Mhm.
hey, life happens and I'm busy, Ken. Don't give me grief. So I'm going to read it or no, listen to it rather, but I'm
Yeah.
so excited to do it. Okay. Gina, I know, has already started it,
I haven't finished it yet, but I have to say, and I said this on our Insta story the other day.
but I'm excited for
You
it.
ever done voiceover work? Because your voice is so pleasant to listen to.
Oh,
Like,
you're too
I'm
kind.
like, I'm struggling because like I have a son and then my mom I take care of, and I'm home all the time.
Mm.
So for me, Audible is like I have to find people say, oh, I multitask. I'm like, but I don't want to. I want to be in it. So when I was saying, okay, I'm gonna pause it here, it was like I didn't want to pause it because it's just so
Oh,
your voice sounds like a hug. It's so nice to listen
I
to.
don't know how to respond to that.
You
I
should
don't
do
hear my
voiceover
voice. I'm
work.
I'm terrified. I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh
But
my God,
it was,
do voice.
yeah. And when I was doing the oh, and by the way, virtually every sentence of that thing is like 5 cuts. I'm a perfectionist, so I would read and then and and read
I
it
had to,
like
and that's like a
and
12-hour
edit and
read.
edit
It's
and
almost
edit
13
and
hours
edit.
on Audible.
I
Yeah.
swear, like every sentence is 4 cuts, and I would just march forward. When I made a little like, oh, I need to emphasize this, I would just back up and
He
like I
literally
wasn't pushing
talked for
any
like
buttons.
2 days
But
straight.
oh, ridiculous. But I was thinking, do I get someone else to read this?
Yeah.
Oh, and I was going down that path, or do I read it with all of my insecurities about my own voice?
You made the right
And I
choice.
thought,
don't
you
know
know
why you'd
what? I
have
wrote the
insecurity. It's
book.
great.
I should probably read
I
it. But
prefer to hear it read by the author of any book
yeah,
because I feel like
because we know the
those are
book.
your
Yeah,
words.
Yeah,
Those are
and the
your
passion
words.
yeah,
comes through on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Fun fact about Josh and I, when we do, well, really any of our podcasts, but when we do Bring Back the Magic, which is pre-recorded and not live like this, we do one take. Literally, I sit there, I do the cold open, Josh hits the intro button, we do the whole episode, and then we hit the outro, like, because that's just us.
There's
And maybe
no
part of it
editing.
is a little laziness that we don't want to have to go back. But it's hilarious when we do any like
I get
promo
that.
stuff because
Yeah.
Josh likes to goof off. And I'm so used to like,
Yeah.
no, let's just hit it in one take. And
Yeah.
Josh just keeps goofing off.
Oh, there
It's
is
like
no
30
such thing as
seconds.
one take for me. Forget it.
Yeah.
I was lucky to get through 2 sentences without any. Oh my God, it was nuts.
Well, I like because
But
I did start the
but I got
forward
the-
or whatever.
Yeah.
It was it Brad Bird? And I like how he says,
Brad
it's like,
Bird,
he goes,
yeah.
is it that why I got the job? Because my last name's
No.
Bird.
And that's a really good story. I swear. Okay, it's a long, winding one, but I'll be fast. It
It's
wasn't
your
until
show.
he
Take your
was. It wasn't until I don't know. He was halfway into the book because I wasn't going to have him do the forward without actually liking the book. So it wasn't until he was, I don't know, into reading the book that I realized, wait a minute, his last name is kind of perfect. I didn't, because I'd asked him to do it like years and years and years before I was barely into writing the book. And he was like, yeah, yeah. I was at some party. But I wasn't, all I was thinking of is Brad is the best person to give the forward to this. He is like an old school Disneyland nerd, and loves all that stuff as much as I do. And he was just the perfect person to give forward for. So he was not cast because of his last name.
Because Tiki
Bottom
Barber was
line.
busy.
Yeah, exactly. Though it is a lovely coincidence. So I
Tiki
told him,
Barber.
I was like, Brad, I hope you know I did not ask you to do this forward because of your last name. Please,
perfect,
please.
though.
And this book forward by Trader Sam. Thank you.
Yeah. So what,
Exactly. Yeah.
what inspired you to want to, like, was this your favorite attraction? What inspired
All
you?
a
to
good,
tell
all a
everyone?
good question. I knew the importance of it even at a young age. Of course, when I saw it, I think I was age 7. It blew my mind. It was sort of Disneyland's first big magic trick. And we have to recognize that. Go back to 1963 and try to get into the minds of people that step into that room, sit down, and then all of a sudden, with a push button, something magical happens. We're used to it now, utterly used to it. But in 63, no one had seen anything remotely like this.
Right.
And at age 7, I was considerably after it opened, but it was equally enchanting. But I also knew I'm the nerd that wants to know more, like, how did they do this? This is crazy. Who put this together? I knew how incredibly important that was in the history of Disneyland. This was before Pirates and Small World and Haunted Mansion and all those big attractions. And it was the first of its kind. No one else on the planet could see anything remotely like it. So I knew its importance. I knew how it changed everything at Disneyland. And then from there, I'm like, I want to read the book. Like, when's someone going to write the book? Like, write a book, somebody. I want to know how that thing was put together. This
You're
is
like,
important.
I'll do it. Hold my beer.
This is important. And of course, long story short, I ended up being the guy that wrote that book. It's literally because they always say, like, the book that you want to read and no one's written, I guess it's your job. So I, took 6 years out of my life to write it and 10 years to research, and finally got the book that I wanted to read because I had questions. I had lots of questions. My inner dork was like, this thing is important. And it's a story that needs to be told. I mean, people kind of wander past a lot of people wander past the Tiki Room and like seen it. And I've always been terrified that someone's going to come along and go, we need another T-shirt shop or another stroller parking
same.
lot, and we're going to tear this
no.
thing down. And so part of me was like, people, this thing is incredibly important. As far as
Yes.
I'm concerned, it is a pop culture masterwork. It's a piece of art.
Yeah, I agree.
And what
And it's
happens?
one heck of an earworm. Okay, it's an earworm.
Yeah, it's a
too.
one heck of
Tiki,
an earworm. But my job was, I'm going to, in a way, this book is about reminding people how important this was in the history of the park, in its relation to Walt Disney. So I had a job to do, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. So I'm gonna wave that flag because it is really, really important in the history of the park and the
It
history of
is.
all theme parks. It changed
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that, like, when you say that's so true, because when we were kids, our dad loves Tiki Birds. I know he will love your book. I'm definitely going to get him a copy.
He's got fond memories of the Tiki Birds,
Well,
especially
we'll
How
tell that
could you
story
not?
when he would take us. It was like, want to go to the Tiki Birds, and that's what we always called it,
Yeah.
obviously, instead of its real name. But we would like, oh, I want to
Yeah.
go see Tiki Birds. I want
Yeah.
to go see Tiki Birds. And I remember as a child, though, I was mildly terrified of the actual tikis on the wall that started.
Of course,
moving
yeah.
out at the end.
Yeah.
That did kind of freak
Yeah.
me out. But it was a great place to cool off and hang out. But it was cool to show as a child, and I think that that's the unfortunate part for those of us that grew up in the early ages of Disney and got to experience Disney in whether it was 70s, 80s, even early 90s, before social media and all this stuff. Like we've talked about in our podcast, the big thing you notice from old home movies is that
Yeah.
nobody was walking around with cell phones in their hand in Disney. So when
Yeah.
they were
Oh, yeah.
in Disney, they were immersed in the Disney moment. You
Absolutely.
weren't paying attention to anything. You were
Yeah.
in Disney.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
shows like that, I think, had a greater appreciation. You appreciated the magic. And now
Yeah.
someone's like, oh, Tiki Birds, oh, blah, blah, blah. And it would break my heart if that
Oh,
went
yeah. Same with me.
because, yeah, it is an icon. Like people don't realize the history.
Yeah, I
the
remember
Walt Disney
people,
name, Walt
people
Disney.
getting up and waddling out, and I'd be like, like the people who would get up at in the middle of the show and leave, letting light into the building. Like, I wanted to run
worst.
after them, sit them down, and say, "Let me tell you a story," and then I would rattle through the points of my book and say, "Come
There's a
back
special
to the
place in
room.
hell for those
There's a
people.
special place in hell for you, but come on back. And now that you have a new appreciation for it, maybe you will not leave." It's the
Yes.
same. Yeah, it's the same.
How did
with,
you feel
know.
about when they revamped it during that time and did the under new
So,
management? Was Zazu and
my book is primarily focused on the creation of the one at Disneyland, and then of course the one in Florida was a knockoff.
So we get the cheap imitation. Okay, Ken.
No,
I'll
no,
take it.
yours.
I'll
They
take
spend
the
more
huge
money on yours.
birds.
There are more birds in that thing. It's a bigger room. The one at Disneyland is more intimate. But yeah, they again, it was Disney executives going, we need to make fun of this thing because it's so corny and old school, and so
Well,
we're
that's
going to
the
bring in
charm.
some characters from whatever other characters,
Zazu and
Zazu
Yago.
and Iago. Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, and read it. It's very clear in the book.
It was a train wreck.
Because
It was a
that
train
book
wreck.
is being written as we speak.
Someone at Disney is like, this thing isn't cool, so we need to make fun of it. So, and they did. And quite frankly, I've always said, Disney's charm, Disneyland and Disney, the charm is that it's not cool. Like, no one goes to Disneyland because it's cool, hopefully. They go because it's quirky and old
Yeah.
school and
fun.
and charming.
Yeah.
So no, not a good day in the
It's
history
Ken's second
of.
book. It was
Yeah.
awful. The story
It was
of
awful.
Tiki Birds under new management.
Yeah, well, and I
See-
talk about under new management in the book at the end. I have a couple of quick
You're like,
chapters on.
And enough
on
about that. So what was the most
So
surprising
hopefully they won't
fact?
do that again.
Yeah, right.
So what was the most surprising fact you learned in your research?
So many. I'm going to put it in a giant bubble because it's not
All right,
one
bubble it.
thing.
Bubble it,
I
Ken.
think the bubble is how much mythology. This was the biggest discovery. How much mythology is out there related to sort of Disney history, Disney park history, Walt history. How much of it is completely sort of made up or misunderstood? And
You like
so,
Frozen Walt kind of stuff?
Frozen Walt stuff, but a lot related to the Tiki Room. But one little gem gets out there, and then the Disney community just it turns into an echo chamber. And these are all stories that are charming and heartwarming and sweet, but totally misleading. And that annoys me because the truth, though it might not be so warm and cozy, is so much more interesting. Which so myths like, I don't know, people drag out the Tiki Room story always starts with this bird in a cage that Walt bought in New Orleans, and how that was the birth of animatronics and the Tiki Room. And I'm like, no, Not really.
Wrong.
That is a warm story, but it's utterly misleading. He didn't
Uh-huh.
buy a bird in New Orleans and then instantly think, I'd like to build a room full of them at Disneyland. No, but it does play a part in the story, but it's much more nuanced and complicated. And quite
Mhm.
frankly, one of the biggest, Walt was a storyteller. So Walt, had to market his things and he had to often create stories out of whole cloth himself. That, the story of him sitting on a park bench in Griffith Park dreaming of Disneyland. Sure, he dreamed of Disneyland while sitting on that park bench, but he dreamed of Disneyland a lot more in the shower every morning or in
Yeah.
his barn back home. So there's a lot of mythology related to
Yeah.
the Disney parks and so it was disassembling that. So I had questions going in, like, okay, the Tiki Room was going to be a restaurant. No one ever talks about who was going to run that restaurant and what was that story
Mhm.
um
Were
uh
they going to
and
serve
that
chicken or anything?
and what were they going to serve? Oh, I know what they were going to serve.
It's a bird restaurant. We can't do
Mythology. Well, I wanted to know more about. Walt would always go, "Oh, the same technology that launches missiles into whatever outer space uh, was linked to the Tiki Room and the Polaris sub and the Polaris missile system." And I'm like, go on, like, huh, like
that. What?
what is that link? So I had to do a deep dive and figure out what was it specifically, what was the U.S. Defense Department actually doing that made the Tiki Room possible. No one had ever sat me down and told me, so I had to do the research. So lots of questions, and the more you dig, the more fascinating it gets. I was like, this is a really, really, really good story.
Now,
It's
when you
great.
say dig, what were your main sources? Like, where did you find that you found the most information accessible to you?
That is like everywhere,
Yeah.
like everywhere. It all started with a treasure trove of information. A Disney artist whose name is Kevin Kidney had collected over many years. That was the tip of the iceberg, and then from there it was private family archives and old newspapers and magazines and books and interviews and more interviews and more interviews. It's yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. Um, I was able to find an old Tiki Room script owned and scribbled all over by a man named Bill Cottrell. He was Imagineering's how do we next to Walt, he ran the company.
Wow.
And this was his
Oh wow.
private copy of the Tiki Room script. And it's amazing how much information you glean, not just from the script, but from all of his scribbles, but even more so what he erased.
Is that-
Unbelievable how much information you can glean from what he erased. It's that much fun, and blueprints and whatever. So yeah, that's all. Yeah, it's just everything that you can find and hunt down becomes that can become a part of the story. And I'm still learning stuff. I'm on my third printing soon, and that book's going to have a whole bunch of stuff
and that's
So
a
great.
big book.
that.
That's a thick book,
It's
and
thick.
that's a
Yeah.
thick
It's
book.
comprehensive. Well, it's funny when you were just saying about what was erased because our dad actually had the drawings to Plane Crazy. Somebody had contacted him
Yeah.
about it back in the day. We're talking
Yeah.
like early 90s.
The storyboard
And
to Plane
yeah, like
Crazy.
storyboards.
Yeah.
And so, but on the backs were like
Mhm.
sketches of
Mhm.
Mickey.
Mhm.
They were
Mhm.
saying like these could be like legit, like first drawings of Mickey Mouse. Everyone thinks,
Right.
really. So where did you, when you say that, like, where did you get that script? Like, where did
Oh,
that?
you at auction for that one
Oh,
was at auction.
wow.
I was lucky enough to be able to get it. But even then I had was able to get pictures of it, but still once I actually had it in my hands, I could really dig. And why I say that, what that which is erased means, oh, we decided not to do that. So I
Yes.
feel like in the creation of anything, the biggest discoveries are not what you did, but what you did not
Yes.
do.
Yes.
I go over an early script that Wally Bogue wrote. Um, for the show when it was a show. So the longest period of time, the Tiki Room was not a show. It was a happening in a restaurant. And for the longest time, it was planned as a restaurant. And it wasn't until the very end, they're like, no, we're not going to do a restaurant happening, all a, Rainforest Cafe where you're eating and
I
then
was gonna
things
say.
happen. It was not
Party
a, it
birds
was
sing
not
birds.
a, it was not a show per se with hosts and an opening song. So that being said, Wally Bogue created this script, this early script for when it was a show. And that compared that to the finished product, and it is nothing but a roadmap for what we are not going to do. And I talked to Wally's son about this, and I'm like, I hope you took it the right way. Thank God he did, because I pick it apart. This was everything we're not going to do. But those sorts of scripts where you just are throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, those sorts of efforts are incredibly important, because once you say we're not doing that, now you have a roadmap to what you are doing.
Yeah.
And it is all about, well, we can't do that because of this, and we can't do that because of that, and that actually won't play because blah 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 blah. Um, um, Walt wanted that show to be in its sense as believable as possible, and in '63 it was. It wasn't, initially it was, again, through the eyes of audiences in 1963. It was like, wow, how did they do this? But about 2 minutes in,
Groundbreaking, yeah.
people had bought into it 125%. As far as they were concerned, for the next 17 minutes, these are real birds putting on a real show, and their suspension of disbelief was 110%. When it started raining outside, people were like, oh, I didn't bring an umbrella. They were, people were fully immersed. I love that magic trick that they did. So part of the missteps of that first script were making sure that, say, the birds didn't reference themselves as robotic creatures, as fake. Walt was like, no, these are real birds putting on a show.
And just even the fact that it was in a circle shape, like the kid going in there and not having to worry about being, I think, lent to the immersion, because you're not sitting in a theater looking up at a stage. I think it was very wise that
Right.
they didn't create that aspect of like, okay, because then how are you ever going to believe it's real? But to have
Well, but
it
then
be
again,
in
you have to
a-
realize too, it was a restaurant too. So
Right.
the shape of it with the central sort of fountain was, there were going to be tables there, and everybody's going to be
Yeah.
seated all which way. They weren't going to be
Right.
seated facing the fountain. They were going to be seated all over the
Yeah.
place, facing in all sorts of directions.
So
So
like a happy
you-
accident that it ended
yeah,
up shifting that way, because I think it
yeah,
really lent to the
yeah,
immersion.
happy
So,
accident. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, for real. So
Part of the mythology, I'll share this with you. Part of the mythology of why Walt canceled the restaurant and moved it over to a show was the magic story is, and it's true, but it's only half of the story, was, oh, this thing is, we have to have a quick 1 hour turnaround for meal services. So it was like, get in, eat, and out in an hour. And it was going to be very
Beacon
strict.
Barrel.
Like,
Yeah,
get in,
Beacon
eat, get
Barrel.
out. And Walt was Walt was like, they're never going to leave. Like, this is getting too good. And it was. It was it was a show that it was an experience that was evolving and getting more wackadoodle and amazing as it went. And that is true. But the other side of it is he was having huge problems with the Stouffer's company, because they were going to be running the show, and he had already started them on the Tahitian Terrace, which was next door, and they were going to run the Tiki Room as well.
Yeah.
Huge problems with them. And so he was already thinking, I got to get Stouffer. No, we can't do this anymore with the Stouffer's Corporation. It's just not working out for a whole bunch of reasons. Read the book. So that is linked to, why not a show, and yeah. So yeah.
I can't imagine it as a restaurant now. Like, looking at it, like, you're like, no, it's got that. It's so charming as what the show was. I'm like, I don't buy it as a restaurant.
So Josh, have you seen the one at Disneyland?
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay.
It was. I mean, it was just
about
years and years ago.
Yeah, and it was going to be a bougie, not too much seating, far a chunk less than what ended up being for when they turned it into a show. yeah, but it was an intimate little tea room, and it's a small
Yeah.
space, and it actually works really well as that small space. Um, I don't know what my point was, but yeah, yeah, it was the
I think what's
restaurant for
interesting too, and it sounds weird that I didn't correlate this until you just said it, but talking about, yes, obviously Tiki Bird's having inspiration for every animatronic, anything that came
yeah, oh
forward.
yeah,
But
yeah,
really, when you do think of things like you just said, the Rainforest Cafe, like things like that, inspired by that, they wouldn't
yeah,
probably have even come up with that because it
yeah.
wasn't just the idea of animatronic animals, but it was creating the simulated storm, or now what we have in the way of
Mm,
Beacon Barrel, like that is kind of taking the newer version
There's
of the
yeah.
also an animatronic bird in that too. Just so you know,
right.
Beacon
Oh yeah,
Barrel at
yeah,
Disney World.
yeah,
There's also
Yes, I
yeah,
know, but I'm
just
saying
kind of
like
sachets out a little bit. Yeah.
the inspirations that came from this attraction, and it is such a piece of Disney history that I do think the newfound Disney fans may not get, but that if
yeah.
you were part of the old history. So like for you as a child, because I know you said you remember going there as a young child, what was your Disney life like as a child? Were you going to Disneyland all the time? Were your parents, was it like a one-time thing that you went and
No,
didn't get to go back? Like what was your experience?
it was, what, I think yeah, so maybe there were 3 or 4 childhood visits to Disneyland. And there were big events. So if you were going to Disneyland, this was like Santa Claus and New Year and birthday and yeah, it's
Yeah.
all it
All
was a
in one.
it was you didn't do it all the time, but when you did it, you couldn't sleep for a week. Um, so not a lot of trips, but the first trip I took, my dad would I 2 brothers, and it was going to be when we turned age 5. It was dad was going to take us singularly, one after the other, to Disneyland. He
Mhm.
helicoptered us in from Long Beach, so that was part of the fun. Um,
Wow.
and I was like, I'm going to turn 5 soon, and that was when I first saw Disneyland. And my main memory of that trip was 90% terror. Like this was a scary place, going down waterfalls and skeletons, and the Matterhorn ride was horrifying, and even Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. At the end of that thing, I was covered in sweat because
Go
as
to
as far as I knew, I was supposed to be driving this vehicle, and it was
You were
not
really bad at
working.
it, Ken.
Yeah, I would turn left and the thing would go into a wooden set. Like from my 5-year-old brain, it was like, I
yeah.
have failed, and this was broken, and it wasn't me, and it was scary. But something like Small World
Mhm.
blew my little 5-year-old brain and changed me forever. I was like rewired my neocortex, because it was pageantry and lights and music that I was not familiar with. Grew up in Palos Verdes where we had fog every morning, and it literally was a great childhood. So I didn't go to circuses or parades or anything like that, but Disneyland, age 5, Small World, and again when you're tiny, looking at these giant sets. Uh, it was pageantry that I was not familiar with that blew my little brain. So I was in, even though, cannonballs racing over my head, flying over my head in Pirates of the Caribbean was trauma.
I'm always the
Um,
person that gets wet on that too, by the way. It always
I
sits right
still
next
feel
to the boat.
traumatized by the Haunted Mansion. It still scares
yeah.
me.
Well, but part of the fun is like, well, I survived that. Maybe I'll try it again later because
Yeah.
I think I'll be all right. That's what happens. You survive it. That was, yeah. So but again, Small World and a few other things there were enough to light me up to the magic of Disneyland, and I was in. I was
I'm
all
so
in.
glad you said that because I think it's an important thing for people, especially Disney adults, Josh, to recognize
Mm,
that certain rides, like the value of them is for the little children. So we
mm,
get so caught up in Disney adults and our opinions about like, oh, Small World's not my thing. This isn't my thing. It's like,
I feel
but you just said
attacked.
it yourself. It changed your whole feeling about the park because
yeah.
those things that the adults might love, and even though the idea was for everyone to be able to get on everything, I remember squishing between my parents on
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion, being like, I need to be between both of
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
because I was
Yeah.
terrified. But I loved Small World. I still taking my son
I
home.
still love Small. That's what's not to
Yeah.
love. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
And
yeah, so I understand, like, it's for some people who are exiting the camera right now. Josh, I do want to say in the midst, because I don't want to wait till the end to do it. We have this giveaway, and we actually technically have two, but I want to do the giveaway for a specific reason right now because it's a segue into something. So Ken has graciously offered to give an autographed copy of the book to the winner. And so we are going to do a trivia question. Ideally, not to be Googled, but I know that at some point that's probably what's going to happen. We want to know in the chat the very first person who can name all 4 of the tiki birds that host the attraction. Whoever names them first we need all 4
without
names.
a Google search.
Without a Google search. But if you know all 4 birds, if you don't know all 4, I wouldn't say 3 because somebody might know the 4th one. They're going to take the answer. But all 4 birds that host the tiki birds.
And I don't know that I could do it.
And then we have another giveaway at the end of the show for an Audible copy of Ken's book. But
with my lovely dulcimer tones.
Yeah. So while they're thinking, and we put that out there, because I have a question that relates to that, but I can't ask you it. It was from the chat until after we get the answers, because someone wants to know your favorite tiki bird. So Nish does. So I don't want you to answer that yet. But what did you feel as someone who was a lifelong Disney fan in doing this research and learning more about this iconic attraction? Did you feel like your feelings about Walt change at all? You know what I mean? Did you find that you just even more so were appreciative? Were there some things that was there anything that shifted in your opinion of Walt?
Gina, that is a awesome question. And I think one of the revelations when I was writing this book, well, first of all, I knew from an early start that I was just going to be focusing on the Walt. I was going to be treating this story as if the Enchanted Tiki Room was the only thing on Walt's clipboard at the time. Like this was all he was, and of course he was not. He had to help run a company with his brother, and he had a lot of other things on his mind. That being said, it was an incredibly personal attraction. But I'm going to treat this story as Walt's as if Walt, that's the only thing on his mind. And in doing that and pushing all that other stuff aside, I feel like I really met a completely different Walt than is often written about. A Walt that was incredibly nostalgic, a Walt that was vulnerable, a Walt that wasn't always sure of himself, that had insecurities just like all of us about what he was capable of doing. I met a Walt that was, we don't talk about it, grumpy all the time. I met Walt the child. I met Walt, I think the whole Disney adult thing that we talk about is about kind of this inner core of many of us, which is I want to be in a space that is safe, that reminds me of those warm childhood memories that I don't get so easily as an adult. Walt was very much that kind of person who was always very his warmest memories were those things that happened in his childhood that carried through. Someone just rang.
Yeah. This is winter bell. Somebody did get the answer right.
There we go. Right. But more importantly, those things that we wanted as a child, and this is Walt-centric, but those things that we wanted as a child but didn't necessarily get, that our entire adulthood turns into chasing after them, to try to rekindle those things that we didn't have so easily as a child. And that's very
with
Walt.
Your inner child, basically trying to
so I met a Walt that was a lot more human. We mythologize him, and I actually prickle. I get a little upset with Walt being turned into a deity, into a sort of a Christ figure, because he was very human, and had foibles just like all of us. And to me, that's the most fascinating part of Walt, is the real guy, not the myth, that made mistakes and and
I like how he was
didn't.
let go
Yeah,
from a job for lack of vision. Like for his early career,
yeah,
lack of
yeah,
vision. I'm like, could you
Was that
imagine?
the
There's nobody that
apology?
defines
yeah.
vision like Walt Disney. Like,
But I say that about Superman. It might sound like an odd parallel, but I get upset in Superman movies where they think the way to make Superman look human is to make him
to make him
physically
weak.
weak, like they have him being beaten up and
Yeah.
stuff. But I think what makes him human is his emotions, it's his
Yeah.
sympathy. It's the fact that, okay, maybe you don't always make the right decision, but I think that's the most beautiful part of a human is the feelings that we have, is that we're going to get frustrated, we're going to get angry, we're going to make mistakes, but I don't think you have to necessarily be physically weak to
Yeah.
be human. So that's what I like
Yeah.
about Superman. So I think like seeing Walt's vulnerability, seeing that he wasn't
Yeah.
always going to get it right, seeing he might get frustrated. I mean, we talk about, and actually Callie and I, who's in the chat right now, we're talking about the book Disney Wars that Josh loves so much,
Yeah.
and saying about, like, Michael Eisner. Josh and I are big fans of the Eisner
It's a
era.
great book.
Disney
Yeah.
World,
It is.
we
It's
love
wonderful.
that era because we feel like Eisner was very focused on the guest experience. Like as a guest, Eisner was it. Like, because you felt like he was trying to deliver.
Yeah.
And yes, he had Wells as his balance for the finance. We say maybe that's the issue now, is there's not that balance of two. One, you were just getting the finance people and not as much the guest experience people. But I think that what you were just saying about Walt, like people say, well, not everybody liked Eisner. And it's like, okay, well, maybe not everybody liked Walt. Maybe they liked his ideas, but who knows?
Yeah.
Like, how do we know? And so I do.
The people that work with him often thought he's insane. He's gone
Right.
batshit. And of course, he always proved them wrong. But
Yeah.
Walt was incredibly human, but also again in my writing, very vulnerable. And I think one of the core sort of moves towards sort of mechanical figures at the park all were related to an earlier project he was putting together, which was his sort of private diorama thing. And that was Walt going, I haven't drawn since I was, 20, and I want to prove to people and to myself, I still have it in me. I can do this. So, so my point being, a Walt that was, that inner child in Walt, that vulnerable nerd, that total dorking nerd, and also the guy who kind of earlier than we ever even imagined was so tired of animation. He was like, I want to do something else.
Well, Iwerks is the one that did Mickey. I'm like, so when Mickey came about, Iwerks was the one that drew Mickey. It's
he
like
was the one that
Walt's
drew Mickey, but Mickey was still
Yeah.
Walt. Like,
it was Walt. It was Walt. That's what I'm
yeah.
saying. I go, you look, it's like he was getting into bigger and bigger things as time went on.
And
So
and
like,
Walt drew, but he quickly kind of grew. He wanted to be the visionary and let someone else do the work. Yeah, so
exactly.
that started at an early age, but the Walt I met in my book was so much more human and complicated than
And smoked a lot.
And smoked a lot. And not only smoked a lot, but just smelled of smoke. Like it was in his fingers. Like,
Oh my goodness.
I think the family would talk. It's like, you'd always you'd hear him in his cough, but you'd also smell that smell. Like when you're smoking, it's all over you and all the time.
The only smoke I think I've ever learned to deal with, and I'm a former smoker and I've been out of it for over 10 years, but is pipe smoke. Like when you have somebody smoking like a vanilla tobacco pipe, it actually smells good. It doesn't smell like you would think it would. It actually smells like a nice smell. And I'm like, that's the only one. Everything else is just such garbage. It's like cigars. You go by, you're like,
I actually love the smell of tobacco, not smoke, but the actual smell. I was able to go and check out some sort of old school tobacco farms that they still keep up in, on the East Coast for, to show off how the revolutionary Americans grew the stuff. And
because East Coast
tobacco, those sticky, large tobacco leaves, they smell like candy. Like someone should make a tobacco flavored candy. I'd be all over it as long as it didn't give me cancer.
Yeah, it is true though. Tobacco, like you'll put in pipes and everything, you smell it. It just smells like this, like cherry vanilla kind of thing. You're like, this is actually like a potpourri.
When you wander past like a tobacco store, it's like that smell is wonderful, except when they're lighting it up. In my opinion,
exactly.
Yeah.
Now I want
I
to
say the pipe's the only one for me.
Mish won knowing the names of all the birds. So we had Jose, Pierre, Frank, and Michael. So
Yes.
she wants to know, do you have a favorite of the four birds? Is there one that stands out to you? It's just
Oh, I
basically,
love them all.
yes.
Fritz, probably because I have a German
Oh,
friend right
it's
now, and
showtime.
the faux fakey
I love it.
German accent
Oh,
is
it
both
is.
charming
Mhm.
and I can't help but fake through the German accent. There's something charming about.
Yes, I love them all too.
Yeah.
Now, we will at the end of the show have one more question, guys, for a chance to win an Audible copy of the book, which I think obviously is also tremendous because of Ken's soothing
Wish I
voice.
could sign that. I can't really sign an
Sorry,
Audible.
I know. But I was going to say, so while we're trying to keep you at an hour, Josh and I are chatty boxes. I know
We do
I'm
want to.
not
We
going
do want
anywhere.
to ask one important thing, though. We want to delve into
Yeah.
this because we know we've talked
I
about
wasn't
your past.
closing out. I had a question.
I know.
You
but
better
I'm
not.
saying is-
I'm just getting started.
Yeah. So one of the questions, we know that you used to work at
Yes,
Disney.
that's what I was going to say.
And this is okay. So we talk about a couple different attractions pretty often in our podcast.
Yeah.
One of them being Horizons,
Yes.
and another one being World of Motion. And
I
lucky
worked
enough,
them both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ken has worked at both attractions. So, and my question is, why does Mission Space suck, and why is that the right answer?
Why do we lose our favorite to our least favorite? It is garbage. Have you
It's
ridden it?
Disney's push to be relevant, and that is a rabbit hole. I hate the word relevant when it comes to the parks because it's executives going, and it's true to a certain extent. We have to keep the parks relevant for current guests. I get that. But part of it was there was this huge push, and there still is, thrill rides. That's what they want. It's funny because Steve Jobs and Walt are a lot the same because they both believed in don't give people what they want. Give people what they didn't know they wanted.
Yeah.
That is a huge distinction.
That's what we do
And
with
I
our
know.
podcast.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Didn't sound very sincere there.
Mission Space was a big push for thrill rides, and why not put them into a vomitron and spin them up and give them vomit bags?
Have you ever ridden it?
Why do I not like it? Because it's not World of Motion. I mean, make World of Motion better.
Yeah.
Don't take it out and put in a vomitron. So it's Disney chasing what they believe people want, which is more thrills, and they believe that
if they had kept Horizons, I think it would have just stood the test of time, much like the Carousel of Progress and all. I don't know why they would take it out and then replacing
they gave you
World
that
of
sinkhole
Motion with
theory,
Test
which I
Track.
think is mythology.
You know?
Well, and again, I'm going to play the devil on the shoulder. And again, this isn't necessarily because I believe it, but there is something there is a concern when nobody is going on it anymore. And quite frankly, Horizons got to a point where nobody was going on anymore. So I am we have a mantra in animation when we're doing something. Is it different or is it better? You want better.
Yes.
So you could take the core idea of Horizons, which was so great. It was Epcot's sort of central theme, and zhuzh it up, change it, refresh it, but don't necessarily take it away. You could have done the same with World of Motion. They were great ideas, but I also throw my hands up and go, "Oh dear Lord," because Epcot isn't what it used to be. It has now become basically just land for
there's no
IP.
cohesion to things. And
Right.
look at it this way. Could you imagine Horizons now with the technology if you were to improve it? Like, the screens when you go choose your adventure, it would be mind-blowing probably. You'd be like, oh, wow, this is even more cool.
Horizons was like the OG Soarin', like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Where
When those walls would come in and slam, you're like, okay, all right.
Horizons I loved. I believed it then. I still believe it now. Probably one of the greatest, top 5 most elaborate and beautiful theme park ride-throughs in history. It was.
Everybody loved the orange groves. Everybody loved that when you go through and smell the oranges.
So I'm actually good friends with the show writer Tom Fitzgerald, who's pretty well running Imagineering now, and could not be more thrilled to call him a friend. And I tell him all the time, wow, this is as good as it gets.
I will
So
say,
yeah,
like, I
the whole
remember,
thing makes me quite sad.
right?
But by the
Same.
way,
Mhm.
I'm going to quickly say the best things that ever the best things that ever happened to Disney Imagineering is happening now, and that is competition. We owe everything right now to Universal and their lovely, smart, movie-driven executives who are going, we are going to kick Disney's ass. And that puts a
Mhm.
fire under Imagineering to
So I
do
said
better.
I've been saying
And
the same
they
thing.
need to do better. They have
They
been
got
resting on their
punched. They got
laurels.
punched in the mouth. That's really you got punched
Yeah.
in the mouth really hard. That's
You
why you're
go to
like,
Epic Adventure and what in Florida, there some issues, but they're working on them.
yeah,
And you see Universal taking a swing and hitting squarely in the middle of the
because
face.
it's storytelling. It's like it's
Yeah,
immersion. It's storytelling. That's
right.
what
The
people
immersion
want.
And
is the big thing.
and
Yeah.
Josh, it's storytelling because they started with Imagineering had lost this. Imagineering was born on the backs of people,
Mhm.
movie creators. And
Yeah.
that is one of the things that made it so revolutionary. But over many years, several decades, they lost that and started to farm it out to just whoever to get things done. And the movie people went bye-bye. Harry Potter land, that was, well, we've got the property. Who better to help build these lands than the actual people that put the movies together?
Mhm.
And that sense of immersion and storytelling is very much apparent in the very first Harry Potter. And that has carried through with everything that has followed. We're going to use movie people. Imagineering had stopped doing that, and they need to
Disney
get
should have
back
learned at
to
that
that.
point when they put in
Yeah,
Harry Potter Land and everything else. You're like, that level of immersion's what
yeah,
Disney
yeah,
fans yearn for. That's
And
like
it's
what they're
yeah.
like.
not
I want
Galaxy's Edge
that
is not
level.
it, in my opinion. Galaxy's Edge is not delivering.
I think
Galaxy's
it's
Edge
not
in a lot of ways,
enough. I don't think
it's
it's
not
enough with it.
enough to make you feel like maybe like first impressions for people were like, wow, I'm on this
They
place,
strayed
yada
from the
yada.
original
But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
purpose
that
of
it
it.
doesn't give the same thing that people get from Harry Potter. I do agree.
right.
I think we've said a lot on our podcast that I agree with
Yeah,
you. Don't just do like different, do better. I don't want you to just put something else in there and it's
yeah,
not better. I
yeah,
have a list of attractions that I've said were not upgrades. And that's my big thing. If you're
yeah,
going to take away, especially something I love like Horizons, make it an upgrade. And when it's not an
yeah,
upgrade,
yeah,
it's super disappointing.
yeah.
So I
Is
do
it different or
agree
is it
that,
better? Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
know that there were times and also to be fair, before festivals entered Epcot, there was a lot of times that there were just no waits for anything. We would
Mhm.
go, there were off-season times. You could
And that
go
is
and
a problem. That is a
5-minute
problem.
wait. So Horizon suffered from that, obviously, because they're during those
Yeah,
times. Like maybe it would have been
yeah,
different now. I don't know. But I remember they closed it and then people were complaining and then they reopened it back up for a couple
yeah,
more years and then closed it again. And then they told us it was a sinkhole, which that's a conspiracy theory I'll just
yeah,
never
yeah,
believe. But because I was like, oh, then they
Oh,
just
it's
built
gone
yeah,
something.
now.
I don't
yeah,
believe it. I don't believe it.
yeah.
But I do think that like when it comes to rides like that, Disney is giving us these spec drawings. They're giving us these promises at D23. And then either certain projects are just falling off the table, like the Play Pavilion that was supposed to go in Wonders of Life,
Yeah.
just fell off the table, what have you. And they're giving us what they think is good enough. And that never used to be Disney standard. Like Disney was supposed to be like,
And
we're
that
going
is
to knock
changing
the
as we
socks off.
speak because they are recognizing good
Yes.
enough
Good.
isn't good
Because they're
enough.
definitely increasing the prices on us, but they're
Oh yeah.
decreasing the value. And that's what's upsetting. Like I will pay for a magical experience, but if I'm paying and I'm like, okay, you've reduced the number of staff, so trash cans are
Oh yeah. Yeah.
overflowing, and the parade,
Oh
everyone
yeah.
knows I go off about the newest nighttime parade because there's barely any streetmosphere to it whatsoever, which was nothing like what we had in Main Street Electrical Parade. So I do love
Oh
to
yeah. It's
see,
endless and it drives me nuts. Yeah. And
yeah,
like
and
I'm thinking of a couple points. Like for me, sure, do Star Wars Land, but my big issue is it's so dystopian. I go to Disneyland to not feel like there's a cynical like you
that's a
go
good
into
point.
like you go
You
into
want the
Star Wars
magical
Land and it's gloomy because you're in this area that is
Black Spire
under like
outpost. Yeah.
Nazi rule and it's not a joyful place.
That's a good point. That's a really
Like
good
it's
point.
dystopian. Why not go to Star Wars Land and they've just won the biggest battle on the planet and it's time to celebrate.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
Why is
so
Oga's Cantina not have the full Cantina band in there? That's what everyone wanted. They wanted that
well,
feeling of like go in there. Like, I mean, that would
Well,
have
it's
been so
supposed to be
exciting. Have
interactive
Ray play
to
or
begin
have
with.
DJ Rex play in between sets. That's fine.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah.
Universal, they're kicking ass. You go like, oh, the Tron ride at the Magic Kingdom. That's nice, but it's like what, a minute
Mm,
long.
Good
Universal's
set.
like, no, if we're going to do a roller coaster, it's going to be epic. It's going to
yeah.
be. You think it's over, it keeps going.
Yeah.
The Universal is playing hard, and that only is good for the likes of Imagineering
Yeah.
because they will be forced to compete.
They kind of
And
played the long
we're
game.
paying attention, and we're paying
Yeah.
attention. So
We
it's
used
all
to say
good.
we used to say it all the time that, and we were guilty of it. And even when Epic first opened, we weren't sure how we felt. And now I think our opinions changed. We used to say when people would talk Universal versus Disney, we'd say to our friends, the thing is though, no one's ever going to go to Florida just to go to Universal. They're going to go to Disney and they'll do a day or two at Universal. And now
Mm,
there are people that are planning vacations for
yeah,
Universal and they're doing a day or two at Disney. And like that's something you never thought, that Disney would not
yeah,
own the
yeah,
top 4 parks,
yeah.
on the list
Mhm.
ever. And it's at the end of the day, like it's fixable. Like just like when Eisner came
Yeah,
in, it was like Disney was ready to be sold piece by piece.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's fixable, but it's the same thing. I don't know if you agree with this, but a little bit in the animation world in Disney, where some of these movies feel like they're being turned out a little, and they're not like I
A
think a lot of
little.
times, yeah, and they're not like moments in time. And that's what I think we're all
Yeah,
looking for, a story that we connect to and feels like a
yeah,
moment in time. And when you think back, I always
yeah.
tell my son, like when you look at the credits to Cinderella and how few people worked on that film and the credits, like it's not that many people compared to when you see the credits to something else now. And it's just like hundreds, if not 1,000 names of people that
Yeah.
Are you
worked on
talking about Cinderella, the
the
animated film?
original movie.
Yeah. Well, by the way, those credits were severely
Cut.
limited because
Yeah.
Walt only believed in giving the sort of the top brass. If
Mhm.
you'd shown all the names, it's remarkable. But your point is well taken. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, dystopian Disney. But this is a good time for Imagineering, and it's also kind of a weirdly good time um to, uh, for Disney films because there's a huge backlash with Moana, um, the live action Moana. The word has gotten out that people are fed up. Like enough. The actual people going to the movies are like, we're done. Do something
yeah.
original, please. Like
Mhm.
surprise us with something that is
Yes.
that is more risky. And big businesses, I get it. They are risk averse. They have stockholders to feed and people to keep busy working. But please, Disney, we need something
Well,
new.
if you look at it from this angle too, because Universal is owned by Comcast. Okay, so remember when they made a bid for Disney at one point? They were
Mhm.
trying. Comcast wanted to buy Disney. They're like, okay, we can't buy you. We're going to
Mm,
give you a big run for your money now because we've got some more Florida real estate that we were able to acquire, and we're like,
mhm,
we're going to start
mhm.
doing something. So it's almost like, all right, your next move. Not only got to think about what their move was now and their next, you have to be the one past
Yeah.
them when you're thinking about
Yeah.
this because you can't just go what they're working on. You got to go beyond, above and beyond
Yeah.
now of what their
Universal
next step
spending
is.
big bucks and they're picking off Disney Imagineers right and left,
Mhm.
uh which is good ones.
Mhm.
And what's on the horizon for them is going to blow your mind. I hate
Mhm.
saying that because I'm such a Disney fan, and when I
Right.
when
Yeah.
I
We
wave
get
that
it.
Oh,
flag
I
and I
want
want
Disney to
them.
win. This is a Rocky movie right now. Rocky's getting beat up in the corner a little
Yeah,
bit. And you're like, come on, dude, just get up and start throwing some
yeah,
haymakers. Let's get this done.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pulling for him.
Or Universal will win the round for the next 20 years. We don't
Yeah,
know. But
you might
they're
Yeah.
be.
but they're in to play hard, and boy, if you haven't been to Epic Adventure, their top of the line things are
Yeah,
mind blowing.
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
Level
definitely,
of
100%.
detail and immersion, and I mean, it's still IP, it's still intellectual property. I get that. um
And it
I'm not
has
a
its little
fan.
challenges. I know a lot of the rides they say are outside, so they are very weather affected. they're not, a lot of the rides are not covered. And so that becomes an issue. And then I know people have said there's a lot of stairs, like people have called it epic stairs.
Yes.
So again, that's not
Yes.
going to break them, but there are some things that I feel like
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
there's weather issues just because of the fact there's a lot of rides that shut down due to rain, and you're
Due
like
to rain.
They
can't
do the
operate.
rain, but they're not even out in the rain. They
Yeah.
shut down just because it's raining. Like, oh,
Yeah.
why are you
And
shutting
it's like-
down the Harry Potter
it
ride when
doesn't
it's
make
raining?
any
Well,
sense.
I don't. Who knows? Humidity? I don't know.
Now, going back to your book a little bit, Ken, where can people find your book? Obviously, I'm sure Amazon is one place, right?
That's it. Pretty much it. Amazon or
Or
my-
Amazon is the place.
I'm self-published, so I'm still learning the ropes of like, how do I
It's a
work with
beautiful
Barnes and
book.
Noble?
I love the
Thank
cover
you.
art. I love the fact
I'm
that
very,
it's just
very proud of it.
well done.
I'm actually going to, since I have a new printing, I moved the copyright on the third printing because there's enough revisions to 2026, which is next year, and that might be able to get me an in with, say, some brick and mortar places like Barnes and Noble. So, but I'm the only one running the show, so it's Amazon or my website, which is tikiroom63.com. And then whatever various speaking engagements I do, I'm signing books. But yeah, I put definitely a lot of love
I like how
into the
Mish
book.
said she's going to find it in her mailbox since she won the
Or her mailbox. There you go. That's
I
where she
do
can
want
find
to
it.
give
Yeah.
the opportunity for one more giveaway. This is another one. I know it's going to be rare. You guys are going to know off the top, but it's for a prize. So, Mish, don't enter this one just because you won the last one. But we want to see, does anyone know? So, of the 4 birds that we named, do you guys know? So, Jose is from Mexico, Pierre is from France, Fritz is from Germany. Do you guys know where Michael is from? So, if you know where Michael is from, drop it in the chat and you can get an Audible. I'm also going to do another promo.
Wasn't it South Central?
Of
Wasn't it
an
from South
Audible
Central?
copy I'm going to do on our social. So stay tuned for that. If anybody who missed the episode, I'm going to give them a
I
chance
would
to-
ask a totally different question, but again,
What is it? Go ahead. It's your show. Go for it.
Well, it's your show, Gina.
No, it's
Jesus.
yours. This episode is your show. We're just here riding along.
Name the bird who stood out in front of Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room at Disneyland for 6 years.
Oh my God.
Name that bird. Cheers.
Michael, the Twilight Zone, Tony said.
Everybody's
But
like, oh my goodness.
I am so thankful that that we were able to connect and do this today, because I'm really looking forward to finishing the book. I really want to get a copy for our dad because I know that he would just fall into it. It'd be great for him right now to have something like that.
What does your dad do for a living? Can I ask?
Our dad's been in the comic industry our entire life.
Oh, wow.
And done some publishing. And there was a time we published the Disney comics as well. And he's a
Wow.
collector. We used to have a pop culture museum also. And but he actually donated the original drawings of Mickey Mouse to the Library of Congress. He donated a big
Wow.
portion of his collection. So
Wow.
eventually, once they raise enough funding, he will have a room at the Library of Congress with all of his
Wow.
collectibles, like a pop culture room, which is exciting. It's just, things like that, getting the funding and whatnot.
So my dad was no longer with us, but he was an engineer for aerospace, and I never really gave a hoot and a holler about what he did. Never asked him any questions, but he was an engineer, MedTag repairman for satellites,
Oh wow.
and a great, really interesting career in
That's
in
amazing.
engineering. That being said, after I wrote the book, I'm like, oh, I wish my dad were still here, because I had to do a deep dive into that thing called engineering,
Oh wow.
which I now have an unbelievable respect for, and what they do. It is as creative as anybody in comics. Like, they
Oh,
are
for
problem
sure.
solvers,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and have nothing but puzzles that they have to
And-
unravel that no one else has unraveled.
Right.
So my respect for engineers has gone through the roof, and
Oh, I bet.
That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. And our
So-
dad
Yeah, I know-
is such a Disney fan. Like, he has loved Disney forever. He takes
Mhm.
great
Yeah.
inspiration from him. He loves anything about Disney history, but he has a tie to the Tiki Room that Josh mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, because when my
Yeah.
dad was on keto, he passed out in front of the Tiki Room, fell down, busted his arm. They gave us free
He fell
Dole Whips
face
while we
first
waited.
on the ground. It was
Thankfully, his watch
horrifying.
kept his head from hitting, but he tore his arm. Like, he had something supposed to. They took him to the hospital. They gave us all free Dole Whips and fast passes while we waited.
Oh, you guys
So I
got
bought
to
him a
eat Dole
Tiki
Whips
Bird
while I
shirt
took
after
him
that. I was like,
on the
"Dad."
Ruin the Magic
Was this
tour
in
behind the
Was
scenes.
this in Florida?
Yes.
Wow.
He went
And
to
do you
beat
know
up
what?
his- the ramps, like, they're not seats there when you're waiting outside at the pre-show, like little thing.
Yeah, yeah,
There's like those little ledges that are under
yeah,
the
yeah.
railing. People tend to sit. So he was squatting, sitting there, and he went to get up and he just went down because he was on blood
Wow.
pressure medicine, but keto had dropped his blood pressure more.
Oh,
And so he wasn't regulated. So he fell down.
I will
And
point out the fact that Ingrid did get the question right for that Michael was Irish when you asked the first
okay,
mhm.
great.
question. So she really did get this. I don't think anybody knows it. I do know what the bird's name, or I think I know what it
San
is
Diego
on the wall.
chicken. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's no. Because
The
nobody's
San Diego
answered it. But is it Juan the Barker?
I did
Okay.
not.
Juan. Yeah,
I
Juan.
did not know that.
you are.
Yeah.
You
Well
win
done.
something.
Listen, I'm like, I knew it was an extended thing.
You win satisfaction of knowing
Your
you.
friendship, Ken. That's all I ask.
There,
Is your
Yeah, so
could not
Ingrid,
ask for anything
congratulations.
else.
I'm going to send you the Audible credit or his book via Audible. You will love it. It is, again, it's a really pleasant ear journey, but it's a lot of great information, and just 10 years of your life put into researching this is just tremendous and such an accomplishment. You should be so proud of it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a fun journey.
Yeah.
See,
So
I spent a lot of time driving to Disney from Pennsylvania to Orlando. So this, if I'm going to be there anytime soon, one of the things I'd put on, because it's like a 12-hour read through. So I'm like, okay, it takes me like 14 hours to get there. I can listen to the entire book as I drive to Disney and get me in the mood to
There you
go
go.
to the TV room.
And like
No,
you
it's like I was
said,
going to say, like a little quick side note. The biggest mystery when I was finally done and the books had arrived was, how did I do it? Like, out of body experience. Like, who has the patience for this? What was the fire under my hiney? What really was the fire under my hiney that got me through this hugely committed project? And I think, after thinking about it for months and months and months, the core thing was, you know what? And someone actually said, you're probably on to something. When you start a big project like this, if you tell everybody and their mothers that you're, say, writing a book on the Tiki Room, and you know that these friends are now invested in their, because you've just shared a story, the idea of not finishing, no, the idea of them coming back and going, so how's that book going? And you're like, I gave it up.
novel you've been
I
working
couldn't
on?
do
What's that
that.
novel?
It would have been too just depressing. So just, if you're going to do something big, tell everybody about it. And then that might, accountability, that might help. It also didn't hurt that I actually got a license plate that had Tiki Room written on it. And I'm like, when you do that, you better finish the book too. But it's a big project.
I can't even imagine. I hope to write a book one day. I'm not sure about what, but I've always wanted to be an author. And I said, the good news is you can do that at any age in your life.
You can.
But I want to, because that moment of receiving your author copy has just got to be like a tremendous, exciting moment. And
I'm in the midst of the same thing, but I'll keep mine quiet.
But
finishing it, you can talk about something all you want, but boy, the most important thing is, no matter what, finish it. And I came close to, like, I can't do this, but finish it.
You did it.
Go set yourself a deadline and just do it.
You did it.
So
you did it.
yeah.
So we
And I
can
think
find you. You said tikiroom63.com is your website, and then tikiroom1963 is your tikiroom1963 is your Instagram.
Yeah, and if you go to the website, there's also a link to an Instagram feed, which occasionally I will put new and fun, interesting tidbits about the Tiki Room as I go. Weird side project. I am actually the Tiki Room, again, was going to be a restaurant. It had chairs in it. Rattan chairs that were thrown out wholesale in 2005. You can't find them anywhere, but I found 4 from the company that made them, and I'm restoring them to their Tiki Room glory. And this dorky, nerdy thing that I'm doing.
Journey on your
Instagram. He's like, I'm restoring them, and I can't wait to fall through them as rattan chairs.
Well, no, rattan. So rattan actually is, it's not bamboo. These stalks are thick.
They usually
and
have like some kind of like webbing.
They last. They last. So these rattan chairs are in really good condition. The same company that made them, Disney bought them from a company out of whatever, Cincinnati, I think. And so yeah, my
That's
nerdy
amazing. I
side is
love
like,
that.
I'm recreating for him. That's so dorky. I get
I
it.
think that's
I
amazing. That's
love
so right up our alley. That's so something that we
So
would be
dorky.
all
So I'm
about.
like, there's a tiki room chair. They were thrown
Yeah,
out, but this is the same. These are the same chairs.
that is really cool. I
Um,
want to see the progress of the
oh
restoration.
God,
We'll have
so
to all
dorky.
stay
Anyway,
tuned for that. Thank
Yeah.
you
well,
so
yeah.
much, Ken, for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Oh my
This has been
God.
an absolute just amazing episode. We loved hearing about your book and your experiences with Disney and all little
Yeah.
tidbits. And I wish you luck on the restoration project. I really do.
Yeah, I'm still working on
Uh,
it. They're getting there.
I know for myself and Gina, we
Yeah.
appreciate you being here and thank you
I
for your
appreciate you
time.
guys.
Yeah, thank you.
To everybody watching, thank you for joining. And please watch your head and step as you exit the podcast, and we'll see you next time.